And welcome in to another episode of Off Script. My name is Zak Herbstreit, and college football fans all around the country rejoice a little bit. We have spring ball back in our lives. We have football back in our lives to quench the thirst a little bit for the actual season down the road. But in today's video, I want to get into my biggest questions for the Oregon Ducks heading into spring. But before we do that, if you enjoy college football, if you enjoy the channel, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as well. It really helps me out a lot, so I appreciate you guys. But let's get into it here. First off, my biggest question: what are the biggest improvements I'm looking for Dante Moore? Well, let's get into it here. And as you know, Dante Moore is probably one of the better quarterbacks in the entire country last year. So when the news broke out that he was coming back for another year, I know that Oregon coaching staff was absolutely beaming with excitement because of the potential, what their offense could be this year. But I was one of those people, and I know there was a lot of other people out there that was thinking he was going to declare, maybe be a late first round, early second round draft pick at the latest, in my opinion. But he was probably going to be one of those guys that wasn't crazy developed yet, but had the talent, but probably was going to sit behind an NFL vet for a couple years and then have his time in the NFL. But I think him coming back and getting that extra year of development under a Dan Lanning kind of guy, under this new Drew Maringer offense, I think is going to be extremely beneficial for his development as a player and for him in the NFL later on. But talking about him and his improvements a little bit more as well, I feel like delivering under pressure and handling adversity are going to be huge for him this upcoming year. And specifically, I want to talk about his pocket presence and specifically in these big matchup games and against Indiana, against Washington. I want to throw in Iowa there, which is a little unfair just because it was a torrential downpour, and I'll give him some grace there. But still, that makes my cut there. But specifically, I want to talk about these Indiana games because they played them twice, and it's hard to beat a good team twice, and Indiana still did it anyway. But still, in those games, in my opinion, I felt like, at least in the first one, he was almost playing a little scared. He played where he didn't really kind of trust his own line. It felt like he was playing like he was kind of frantically. When you usually watch him against any other team or, just watch him throughout the entire season, he looks so poised in the pocket. He's so calm in the pocket. He knows exactly where to go with the ball. But in those situations, those games, I felt like he was super, almost like rushed, and he was just out of his element. So when adversity hit, or when he takes a sack, or he threw an interception, then he's kind of in his head. So I think the improvement on that would be extremely beneficial for him this upcoming year. Especially with this upcoming schedule, the level of competition is going to be higher, so the ball needs to be getting out faster. Decision-making needs to be faster as well. When the play isn't fully developed, you just be like, okay, I need to tuck it and run with it, or hey, just throw it to the check down. Don't need to be some superhero out there all the time. And there's going to be opportunity to make plays. I'm going to get to that in a little bit with the offensive line because of how strong their run game was last year. But like I said, there's going to be opportunity to make plays, those explosive plays, which Oregon fans in general love to see. But I just think, understanding the offense, understanding in these matchup games, because last year in the matchup games, Indiana sacked him 6 times, Washington got him twice, Texas Tech got him twice, and then the second Indiana game, they got him 3 times. So, yes, that's partially on the O-line, but it's also decision-making on Dante Moore and being like, hey, I could have maybe gotten out of that, or I could have thrown it away and not taken a sack there to give us better field position, to give us a better fighting chance to put points on the board. But I think at the end of the day, the biggest thing I want to see out of Dante Moore is just better pocket presence, knowing kind of where he is, feeling pressure from around him. But, it's going to be a relatively new O-line, so understanding a new pocket presence there as well. Through spring is going to be a little interesting just because it's not as much good on good, iron sharpens iron kind of deal. So it's going to be more probably towards fall camp. You'll got to get that feel. But I'm still excited to see his progress this offseason and kind of what he will have going forward. My next question here is, what will this Oregon offensive line look like? I know I talked about it a little bit earlier on, but currently have to replace 3 starters right now, which is basically half the offensive line, a little bit more than half the offensive line. They went into the portal for only one offensive lineman by the name of Michael Bennett from Yale, and he's expected to be a great asset for that offensive line room. But that kind of speaks volumes as well, the fact they only got one offensive lineman from the portal. It means that room in general, they believe, is ready. They have guys that can play right now. So if I'm an offensive lineman there, I'm really excited for this upcoming season and just the upcoming opportunity to prove myself, to be like, hey, I can play. Put me at this position, and that's what spring's really for, just to kind of, it's almost like a game of chess, like seeing which piece kind of fits in the offense. Like, hey, he can play tackle, but he also can play guard over here. So excited to see kind of how they mix those guys up and which starting five is going to be the most beneficial for this offense. But that kind of begs the question, how do you replicate the success you had from last year, especially in a Drew Mariner offense where it's going to be a little different? I think there's going to be some wrinkles here and there. Maybe it was formations or maybe some motions or something like that. But for the most part, it's going to be very similar because he was under Will Stein being a co-offensive coordinator. So it's going to be very similar. But how do you replicate that success? And what I mean by success is they averaged 5.4 yards per carry last year. And I'm a big believer on if you can run the ball efficiently, that just extremely helps out Dante Moore, obviously. But the guys on the outside of Evan Stewart, Decorian Moore, even the tight ends, historically the tight ends have been great with Ferguson and then Sadiq. But who's going to be that next guy at tight end? That's the question. But it helps those guys outside make extreme explosive plays out there. So having a stout run game and efficiently, consistently running the ball is going to be huge, kind of the identity of what Oregon was last year. And it really helps if you have like a two-headed monster, three-headed monster at running back like Oregon has and will have with Davidson and Hill. But they also had 198.6 rushing yards per game. So if they can continue that success, running the ball extremely well, the kind of the Big Ten way, if you will, I'm extremely excited for this offensive line and this Oregon team this upcoming season. And my last question here is, who's going to be replacing Bryce Betcher? And he truly was that leader of the Oregon defense and really instilled that identity of gritty, hard-nosed football. And he also kind of he led the team in tackles, but he was one of those guys that really actually tackled. He didn't actually just, throw his shoulder in there to tackle people like a lot of people do nowadays. He loved to wrap up. So Bryce's leadership there, it stemmed all the way from the defensive line all the way up to the secondary. They all kind of bought in around him. So you love to see that kind of caliber player out there. But losing that is it hurts the team. So filling that role and finding a new identity is going to be interesting in the spring. And right now, Jerry Mixon and Devin Jackson have that opportunity to do that. And specifically in this role, which I thought is pretty interesting, because of the talent around them, you don't have to be some standout player here. You don't have to be some All-American. I feel like as long as you do your job consistently, you're in the right spot at the right time, you're going to be completely fine. Because around you right now, and especially last year, the team averaged 116 rushing yards per game, which is 24th in the entire nation, and then 158 passing yards per game, which is 4th in the entire nation. So this defense is stout, this defense is ready, and they got bodies. They have talent there, and it's going to be impressive to watch in spring, and excited to see what this defense looks like in spring as well. But Oregon fans, I want to know what you think heading into spring. What are your thoughts? What are your takeaways? What are your hot takes going in? I want to know all of it. But like I said, my name's Zak Herbstreit. I appreciate you guys stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video. I'll see you guys soon.